Hello, Stuart.
How are you? It must be what, midday or something where you are, give or
Yes,
take.
it is. It is, and for you, it's the sun has gone down already.
To be fair, the sun never came up today. The rain clouds came out. We've had hail. It's supposed to be springtime. Daffodils are supposed to be coming up, but yeah, the weather's pretty grim. So
Apropos, I guess, of the show.
yes, it's all right though because I'm happy. I'm in my nice, safe house because houses are where we're safe. At least that's what I thought until I've just finished watching Paradise Cove. My house is no longer the safe place. I am going to have a conversation with yourself, and then I'm going to check around the house, on top of the house, and underneath the house, just to make sure everything's secure. What a wonderful film you've made, by the way. I absolutely
Oh,
loved it.
well, thank you. I appreciate that, man. It's always so nice it's to know that it was entertaining. I mean, that's always what I try to do. I always, I get pitched a lot of stuff, and this one grabbed my attention because I love I love stories that are self-contained, that live in an environment where the characters have to confront emotionally their space, and anything can happen, right? I mean, there's so many movies in the history of cinema that shown us that the story can unfold even in just one room, right?
Yeah.
So I loved that, and I living out here in California over the last few years. Anybody who lives out here in California in the last few years have noticed that there's a homeless pandemic been going on, and even in Malibu, of all places, like in Paradise Cove, you see on any given day, you'll see a quote unquote recognizable face, and they're on the street, and they've fallen on hard times for whatever reason it may be. And so that the combination of that and the self-contained environment, I thought, well, this could be entertaining. Let's go for it.
Because I have some friends of mine who are filmmakers. They live in Malibu as well. So I've seen the photos they've taken of the $6 million views as it's described in your film, and it looks like absolute paradise. But he has also mentioned that there is a homeless problem out there, but we in different countries, certainly the UK, we just see Malibu as paradise, and like the cousin to Beverly Hills, and nothing's dangerous there. It's all white sands and beautiful waves and warm seas. So it was,
Life doesn't lie, right? It doesn't matter
no.
where you are, and you'll get a kick out of this, man. So one of the actors, the guy who plays the homeless man at the very beginning, and then later on, without giving it away, gets into the fight. So that guy with the beard and whatnot, that particular character, that actor, when we shot the opening of the movie, which is where he gets that $5 bill, we were set up, and we shot this a big portion of this in Malibu, in the actual house of the writer Sherry Klein. She also produced the movie, and we shot it in her house, which is right there on Paradise Cove. And we also recreated the house to scale on a sound stage so that we could do the visual effects and match it, right? But it was to scale, which flipped her out in a good way. But it really gave the actors a playpen and a place to really get authentic and be able to work with truth to the lens, which the lens craves for at all times. So anyway, the anecdote that you'll get a kick out of, and to what you just said about Malibu, that particular actor stood on that corner waiting for us to shoot that shot. We were setting up the camera angles, the lights, the car. The actors were coming out of makeup. And, it took about 20, 25 minutes to set up the shot. But he was ready. He was ready to go. He was standing on that corner, getting in character. And we shot the sequence. And then after we shot the sequence, he came up to me and he said, "Was that good?" I said, "Yeah, man, we got it. We did a couple of takes. I'm good with it." And he said, "Okay, well, what do I do with this?" And he showed me in his hand, he had like $70.
Wow.
And he collected that money on that corner while he was waiting for the sequence to take place, because cars from that neighborhood, people were leaving Paradise Cove and heading back onto the Pacific Coast Highway. And he was standing there, and he had a sign that said, homeless vet.
Yeah.
And people were coming up to him, rolling down the window and handing him cash. And he was saying, no, 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 I can't accept this. I'm an actor. I'm in a movie. And they were like, yeah, right. You know, here you go, man. So if you and it's, you know, the moral of the story is, you know, by the way, there's a documentary there probably, or another story to tell, right? But moral of the story is, if you're going to be homeless, you might as well be homeless in Malibu.
You might as well. I sort of see homeless people in the cities near me, and you think it's cold, it's wet, it's horrible. Why? Just walk. Just go somewhere warm. I know it's probably not that simple, but that's my mentality. Go to Malibu. It's warmer there. But at some point, people are going to be watching Paradise Cove and go, do you know who that looks like? Do you remember that guy we gave the money to when we were out shopping? That kind of looks a bit like him. And there'll be a lot of discussions around who he is. But that is right. He was very convincing, obviously.
Yeah, that's funny. You know, and incidentally, I'll just say it. You know, I had a dream a couple of nights ago where, because of people during the past year, during the pandemic, a lot of people started ordering food as opposed to going to the restaurants. Obviously, so many restaurants closed and whatnot. And it dawned on me, you know, gosh, you know, we could just be, through that order form, when you're giving a tip, you could give an extra 50 cents, and that could go to a delivery service for the homeless, right? I just was thinking out loud. And I thought, wow, you know, had we thought ahead of time, might have been neat to create a if nothing else, a charitable component for the, you know, tied to the movie, because we actually do that in the film, right? There's these homeless people. That's a big part of the thematics of the story. And if nothing else, maybe, you know, maybe that was a subconscious in me that it's time for me to get out there. I'm a big give back guy. I do a couple of charitable shows a year with music and here in Los Angeles. And we raise money for everything from, this year we raised some money for the nurses and the doctors on the front lines of COVID. In the past, we've done that for hurricane relief. So, you know, maybe there's a greater good than other just entertaining. And especially with that story I just told you, maybe that's something that would be newsworthy here. Is
there some place that people can find out more about the charitable shows, or would it be through Sunset Pictures, or is there another place where they can, you know, listening to this in the future, they might go, actually, that sounds like something I'd like to donate to or get involved with, and how can they track it down?
I appreciate that, Stuart. That's very noble of you. Yes, actually, if you go to americasalutesYou.org, americasalutesYou.org, all the information about those charitable causes are there. And I appreciate that, man. Right on.
Because I love movies, but, you know, I also see behind the curtain and see all the hard work that goes on, not just in front of the camera or behind the camera, but the other projects that people do, like yourself, like the charitable things as well. So it's always nice to just encompass everything rather than go, we're here to talk about the film and nothing else. And then when we finish, you can go away. I like to cover it all.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a greater good, you know, and ultimately, especially during these times, not to get too spiritual, but the frequencies of entertainment, whether it makes you think, whether it gives you an emotional journey, laugh or cry, there is a healing process to being able to shut down the planet for 90 minutes to 100 minutes and be entertained. And I do believe that people have been doing that more at home now than they might have in the past. And we were fortunate to get the movie made. You know, Sherry Klein really believed in it. She was let's just call it self-invested in it, along with a group of people who said, hey, this is a fun one, let's go do it. We were lucky that Mina Suvari was available and that she dug the project and she got the character. And then when she came on board, it opened the door for other actors who respect and want to work with her, like Kristen Bauer. She was fantastic. She was so much fun. By the way, I got to tell you, the character of Bree, if you have not seen this movie out there and you're listening to this or watching this, the character that lives under this Malibu home, who's an ex-star model, is so fun. She's multi-layered. And that was one of the, even on set, you know, the things that happened. I'll just say this, there's a shower scene
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we shot this shower scene, which was in part an homage to Hitchcockian imagery, we took advantage of the concept of that. You got to have a shower in a psychological thriller that, you know, that has a couple of horror elements in it. After we shot that scene, Stuart, everybody on set went, ugh, ah, ooh, like it was like, it actually had an impact on us. And we shot that early during the production. It was during the first week of shooting. So that really influenced everything that we did from that point forward. We took more chances with that Bree character, like where anything goes, right? You were just, and so she was a lot of fun to work with. She's very creative. She does her homework. All this whole cast was so much fun for me to work with. Todd Grinnell from television One Day at a Time fame, but he was on a break from the show. And the support cast was really fun as well. Everybody contributed. You know, it was just one of those magical things where it was an ensemble cast. And, you know, we were on a very tight budget, like most of these indie films are made. And I will say this, it doesn't suck to shoot in Malibu. So we did enjoy that.
I mean, while you mentioned the shower scene, when I was watching it, I was like, no, what you talk about? So I was doing it all the way here in England. Yep, several hours ago that I was doing that as well. It got to a point in that scene when I'm just looking at Todd going, no, that's not the way. No. So yeah, it had me vocally talking to the monitor as well.
You're a funny guy, man. You know, and I will say that I haven't had a chance to compliment the cast, but a shout out to the cast because all the stuff that was done, the physicality stuff, the stunts, the underwater stuff, you know, they wanted to do it themselves. And we shot, you know, a big portion of the underwater fights and all of that stuff. And it was done right there in Malibu, on the beach, in the water. Even, you know, by the way, when at the end, and I'm not giving it away, at the end of the movie, when you see the kid coming out of the water, I mean, that's, you know, again, a young actor who was willing to brave the elements on set, to give it an authenticity and an emotional journey. It's great to entertain, but you know, the key for me as an audience member, I want to be moved one way or another. Yeah. I have to, you know, we need to be captured, right? So our mantra was realism, and my hat off to the cast for taking those chances and being fearless.
I think from a viewer's point of view, I've been rewatching all the films produced by Jason Blum over the past few weeks, and you know, there's a lot of demons and haunted houses, and they're good. They have lovely jump scares. But what scares me the most is the realistic horror, psychological thrillers, and anything in Paradise Cove could happen. You know, so you can't not believe in people with mental, you know, issues who may not want to leave somebody else's house effectively, or their house. So it's very realistic horror / psychological pounding that my brain took, and I love films like that. Films like the first Purge movie, which is a case of a house is supposed to be your safe place, and when your house doesn't become so safe, that is the most terrifying thing ever. Because I think we all lock our doors at night, don't we? Go, well, let's lock the door. That's just a lock. Somebody wants to get in your house, they're getting in your house. So, you know, Postman rings twice.
Last House on the Left. Yeah. To just name a couple, you know, we could go even, you know, before that. But they're you're right. When the privacy or the concept of safety gets breached, and danger flutters in, it first flutters in the form of an odd energy. When you feel you're in a safe haven and suddenly you're no longer there. And then when there's a question mark or an unknown as to what is that dangerous energy, that's when it becomes entertaining. And like you said, you know, that sets the tone. I love you know, those films and some of the filmmakers that you and I are talking about. I mean, even in a very big example, like Kubrick's The Shining, it's still all in one particular location,
Yeah.
and you're dealing with, you know, one psychological mental wellness situation between really just two people,
Yeah.
and a few other characters that come in and out, and you wonder what's real and what isn't. I love when that would you just describe the gray area uh, surges, and a lot of those influences played into my homage in this film to those films of the 80s and 90s that did that so well.
I was thinking, sort of to go back to some of the films in the 90s that, you know, don't necessarily have an identical storyline to Paradise Cove, but things like Pacific Heights or Single White Female, where it's not a superhuman person. It's not a Michael Myers. You know, we've got Brie, and yet she is far mentally stronger in a lot of ways than, you know, than the other characters in the film. So
Pacific Heights is a perfect example for sure, and you could even say that there's elements of Fatal Attraction sprinkled in to that. You know,
yeah.
I'm a big fan of film history, and I can see that you are too. And I did a lot of when I was a kid growing up in New York City, in a small town called Middlebury, Vermont. Late night, I would be the last one to go to sleep because that's when all the channels used to run some of the best older movies, uninterrupted sometimes. And there's no, you know, everybody else is sleeping, and I would just put that TV set under the covers, a little set about this big, and take in a lot of movies. And by the time I was 11 or 12, I knew that I wanted to make movies, and and then what I really dedicated a big portion of my teenage years was to shooting all kinds of things with a Super 8 camera. I didn't want to shoot on video. I wanted to feel the commitment of film, of analog.
Yeah.
You don't have that many opportunities. You don't, you know, especially when you're shooting on film, you're a little bit more conscious. I came from the filmmaking generation, shooting on film, where you're conscious of every take because the cost of that is astronomical in comparison to just shooting video and rewinding and deleting early on. And now, of course, digital, you know, with relatively no generational gap at all in terms of loss of picture. It's so much fun. I will say that the cinematographer on Paradise Cove, Massimo Zeri, took a very interesting approach. We decided to, like what you just described, we decided to allow for the realism to take place in the frame. And we did a lot of the visual effects on set. We did some obvious augmentation in post, but the stuff that's bloody and the stuff that's all the action was on set because we wanted it to play real. Yeah. And for any filmmakers out there or younger filmmakers, the story happens in the frame, which is still theater. I mean, and ultimately, if you're in a theater or at home on a bigger screen, you're experiencing a theatrical, dramatic storytelling tool, which is that what you do show or what you don't show is the key in a thriller. And how the camera moves it has to feel like your eyes or your instinct. Oh, I want to go in there. Oh, no, don't go in there. And then you pull back a little bit. And so there's I'm going to use this word as sort of an organic natural habitat to where to place the camera that allows for emotion and action and storytelling to unfold. And Massimo did a great job with this on this film. And Bruce Allen Green, our camera operator, those guys are wonderful. Bruce Allen Green goes way back. He shot movies like Close Encounters, and if you remember,
that's my favorite movie of all time. That and Scarface, those two films, kind of neck and neck. Close Encounters.
Wow,
I adore that film. So I was 6 years old in the theater, and I've been in love with that film ever since.
Wow. Well, I loved De Palma's work, and Scarface was, in my opinion, you know, even though it wasn't well received when it first came out, I got it. I understood it, and I was very young when I saw that too. Bruce, our camera operator, also shot, if you remember, a Jim Carrey movie early in Jim's career called Mask.
Yes.
The Mask.
Yeah.
And so he shot some really cool films in his time. And Massimo, the cinematographer, our DP, director of photography, he got his start in film as a teenager growing up in Rome, Italy. And his first professional job as a teenager was he was the assistant cameraman on Federico Fellini's next to last movie. It was a movie called The Ship Sails On.
Yeah.
And he went from there to work with people like John Cassavetes and Paul Mazursky and some really iconic filmmakers, where he understood, again, realism, which is what you and I are talking about, that appears in Paradise Cove, which is something that we were really hoping would work.
And it did work. It most definitely worked.
Right on, man.
Because I watched it on, I have a home projector downstairs, so I could rig it up with the connected to a computer. So it was a 120-inch projection that I watched it on this afternoon. So I have a huge white wall downstairs, so it was nice. That's
awesome.
How I like to have a sound bar and all that sort of stuff. Because cinemas are closed in the UK, and obviously with it being a preview screener that I've got from Grimfest, it was like, right, how do I watch this the best way possible? So I've been watching it on the projector. So it looked great. It looked really good. It sounded amazing.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. That's you're like that's I mean, you're the real deal. I mean, that's the way movies need to be watched at home, in my opinion. And and we have a big, huge screen here too at home. And my kids love, the bigger the better. Man, I wish Grimfest would have happened this year in person, because then we could have gotten a chance to share time together. And there's nothing better than, obviously, that as a species. We're certainly much more reminded of that now after the experience with COVID. I do have a couple of films that I'll be making in the next few years, and in the event that I get invited back, then we'll get a chance to do it in person.
Definitely.
I have a film that I wrote called Once Upon a Zombie, and it's a very funny, entertaining piece that is relevant to what we've just gone through in COVID. And in any event, I'm feeling you, man. Well, at least you got that theatrical experience from Paradise Cove. So glad you did that.
Yeah, you got to do. I always think you can only watch a film for the first time once, so why not watch it in the best environment possible? Which for me at the minute is a 120-inch white wall projection with a big sound bar downstairs. So that's...
I as a filmmaking, as part of the filmmaking process, when I'm done with my cut, what I call the assemblage or the first cut, and the editor and I feel that we have something that makes sense, that's what we end up doing. We end up taking a week off so we can get some objectivity. And then we go to a theater and we watch the film on a big, 80-foot screen. And that reveals everything. It reveals little things, mistakes. It also gives us a sense of timing, because this, I'm preaching to the choir, but for anybody who doesn't, when you watch a movie on your iPad, iPhone, or computer, there's a different tempo than watching it on a 120-inch wall or on an 80-foot screen. Everything changes in terms of timing, because the actual space from the screen to the eye, to the mind, and to the four senses, which is physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, takes a little longer to get there on a big screen. And you experience it in a little bit more of a, let's just call it a 360-degree emotional experience. It's still not, I'm not talking about 3D, and I'm not talking about IMAX. I'm just saying just the energy between the film and the viewer, right? So what you did is just so awesome. Anyway, that's like, everybody should get a projector, man.
They really should.
After listening to you just now, I gotta get one.
They are amazing. And it's we sort of, me and my partner, we decided, right, if this projector breaks, and she said, like, if it breaks, we're getting another one straight away, because she's well into it. We've been watching, I think the Paranormal Activity movies were the first Blumhouse ones that we watched, and she'd seen those before and didn't like them. She's like, not for me. We watched them on a big screen projection with a sound bar, amazing, absolutely amazing, and that shows you that I've never ever watched a film on my phone, and I don't plan on doing either. It baffles me why people would watch a movie on a phone, but maybe that's just
You,
me. But not
you
for
and me
me.
both, man. No, I agree. And even if a movie was shot on iPhone, it should be watched in a theater.
Yeah, it should. It really should. But I was looking down your filmography, and I saw one of your very, very early films when I worked in a video store. I used to work in a video store, and then I owned a video store. I've seen Swing. I watched that many, many years ago. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I was looking at your filmography. I thought, I know that title, and I looked at the cover art. I'm like, I remember that film. I watched that while I was at work in a video store in the early 2000s.
Oh, that's
So there
really
you go.
wild. I mean, I have to tell you, that's wild to hear because that was such a, how should I say this? I was a gun for hire on that, and it was a personal project for the writer. It was very personal to her, and we had fun shooting that movie. It was an easy movie to shoot. It was a sweet story, as they would say, right? It was a sweet story, and we had fun shooting that movie. But I will tell you this very short anecdote about it, so you can add it to the Swing file.
Yeah.
One day, and Jonathan Winters, the famous comedian, was in that film. Jonathan, we were shooting, and out of left field, without any announcement, Robin Williams showed up.
Wow.
And he was very close friends with Jonathan Winters. They were, Jonathan was a mentor to him in certain ways, or an inspiration, if nothing else. And Robin came onto the set, very polite, said, "Hey, I don't want to interrupt," and blah, 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 blah. But we were like, dude. And we just stopped shooting. Everybody hung out. Everybody just decided to take a little break. And that break turned into a good 2 hours of just a lot of laughter. And for anybody who has seen Swing, we did get, it was named recently one of the top 20 swing movies of all time. I'm not sure what that means. We just enjoyed making it. I think people who love swing dancing really enjoy that movie. But I will tell those swing fans out there who saw the film, or who, if you haven't and you watch it, there's a video on my Facebook page. All you got to do is search it, or you could just search it on Google. I guess you could put my name, Martin Guigui, and then put Robin Williams after it. And there's a video that'll pop up, which is a bootleg video, a behind the scenes video that I shot of Robin and Jonathan, just making everybody laugh. And it was just off the cuff, man. It was bizarre. It was wild. It was one of those moments that you remember forever,
It's like Robert Williams shows up on set. You kind of want him to interrupt, to be honest, wouldn't you? You'd be quite disappointed if you're like, Robin, we're doing something here. You just watch and then you can leave. You want him to interrupt. You really do.
Yes.
So it's but with Paradise Cove, it's weird to go from Robin Williams to Paradise Cove. I could just chat to you all day. I get that feeling. There is an amazing shot in it involving a drill and a piece of glass. How was that visual effects, or because that was like, I was obviously looking up at that from my couch to the top of the ceiling.
So you have a great intuitive, hyper creative sensibility, because that was not necessarily in the script. We were trying to figure out what would be a sign of, whoa, a little bit of danger, something completely different, something that you wouldn't expect. And that whole concept with the drill and the glass breaking, and of course we're not giving anything away, was an afterthought, and it came together even on set where we were shooting, and the way that the house was set up with the ocean, and the way that we replicated that on the soundstage. So the technical answer is, the aesthetic answer is, it was an afterthought, and it was kind of created very, very late in the process as part of that really cool, open to all possibilities, creative journey that we all take as you're making the movie, right? The script, you give it to the actors bring their own creativity, and then at the end of the day, the editing is the final rewrite. So you have to constantly be open and hypersensitive to what the movie's saying. Hey, this, maybe this, don't forget this. Because once the movie's out, 5 years later, you can't right? You can't change it.
Unless you're George Lucas, in which case
Right.
or Francis Ford Coppola, he's joining the Lucas Brigade, isn't it? But generally, once it's out, isn't it?
Right, absolutely. So from a technical standpoint, it was, I'll say it was a combination of, it was both on set and then enhanced in post-production.
Because obviously you're a musician, you've got all the musical things behind it. To me, that scene, it felt like it was an increasing tone. So it wasn't a jump scare. It was a and then bang. So it was is that a crescendo that goes up, or is that one that goes down? One of the two. It builds up, and then it hits you with the end of that scene. Which,
when you were describing it, I was going to say a crescendo, so you nailed it.
Good. I got the right word. It's always good. It's nothing worse than me getting the wrong words, because it is forever, and I never go back and edit these conversations and remove out my fluffs. So it's
you know, one of the mottos that I was recently given about life in general is that you have to live with over and next, meaning that when, you know, once it's done, it's done, and you got to move on to the next one and grow, continue to grow, you know, and only look back to make sure you don't make the same mistake twice. My dad used to say, God rest his soul, he used to say to me in his Argentinian accent, Martin, you can make a mistake. One mistake is very good. You make same mistake twice, it's okay. It's okay. We're human. You make same mistake 3 times, you're a stupid. And then of course the F word came out.
Yeah. Feel like, thanks for that. Very wise advice. True though. It is true, isn't it? Everybody makes mistakes. I always say this to people that I work with in my sort of non-film job. It's like, you think you're going to be able to do your job without making a mistake? You're out of your mind. You will make a mistake, but just learn from it. So what was the most fun scene to shoot, if there was a specific non-spoilery one in Paradise Cove? Is there one that springs to mind for you personally?
We had a lot of fun shooting the scenes under the house for some reason. Those were just fun to shoot because we improvised a lot. Some of those things that happened under the house were created in the moment, the way we shot them and the outcome of those scenes. The shower scene, as cringy as it is, was for me extremely fun to see it come to life, because it was an idea that I had come up with. I think those two were really, really fun, and you know, for some reason or another, I have to say that the stuff that we shot at the end of the film, you know, the more peaceful concluding emotional scenes, you know, with the big, I don't know, you know, I'm gonna go. I think I'm just gonna go with under the house. All the crazy stuff under the house.
I'm going with the whole movie. I'm just gonna cop out and give that answer. I genuinely had a lot of fun watching it. I think for me, one of the highlights was Kristen on screen. I personally would put her in the list with, you know, Annie Wilkes from Misery, definitely Michael Keaton from Pacific Heights, Jennifer Jason Leigh from Single White Female. Those sort of characters. I think Brie is definitely, she's among those sort of names on my list as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's really cool. Stu, I'm going to share this with Kristen and let her know that you put her in that company. She'll be so honored and happy to hear that. Annie Wilkes for me was also top of the list, you know, for sure.
Because a believable, scary person who you also sympathize for. I find it's like Brie wasn't a stereotypical crazy person that's just going to terrorize everybody. She was a real person, and you could see that in the film. It's like, okay, I'm scared of you, but I can see why you've got to that point in your life that you've had to become that person who still scares me. So it's well done.
Thank you, man, and perfectly described the way you just did. As the layers peel and we see the reason behind the person, that's what makes it both entertaining and creepier and scarier, but you accept it as real. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I'm a big fan of those characters, big time fan of those characters, just like you.
Good. So what are the plans for the distribution? I know the film came out in February in some territories. But people who aren't at Grimfest, for example, where will they be able to see the film? Are there any of those plans in the sort of concrete stages yet?
Yes, unveiling as we speak. From what I understand, the movie's now available in most platforms, everything that's video on demand, whether it's your local cable provider or if it's Amazon and Hulu and eventually Netflix. In other words, it's creeping its way into
just like Brie creeping its way. I mean, she doesn't really tiptoe, does she? She lets you know she's there, but yeah, just beware when don't watch in the shower, because you may not be watching that film on your own.
So, you may have to do a sequel, Brie's Shower.
I would watch any sort of films with Brie in it. It was, in fact, the whole cast. It was just, I mean, it was probably shot over a short period of time, but everybody on screen just looked like they gelled perfectly. There was no characters to be like, oh, I don't really need those in there. It's like everybody is one big family from the audience point of view, obviously.
Without a doubt. Thank you for saying those words. It was a family that made it happen. And like you said, in spite of any kind of challenge that you'll find in an independent film, we overcame all of that. Yeah, we came together for the better of the film. Right on, man. And
a shout out to Jeff for the music as well. That was impressive stuff right from the get-go. It's like, I'm in.
I'm glad you brought him up. Jeff is great. And I'm going to tell you this really quick. He wrote that. Typically a score can take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to write. We brought him the movie. He loved it. He wrote the score in a week.
Wow.
The whole thing. And it was just because he was inspired by it.
So well done, Jeff. Yeah. Maybe don't tell him I was giving him compliments. Sounds like he's got too much talent and whatnot as it is. He doesn't need an ego. So don't tell him. But
no crescendos for Jeff.
No crescendos for Jeff. No. But I would like to be kept up to date in the stuff that you do. And I'm hoping I run an audio podcast generally. But when I am doing these Grimfest coverage things for them, then I like to do video because I can see who I'm talking to. So I would definitely like to keep in touch with yourself, and because I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you.
The feeling is mutual, man. Let's stay in touch and let's keep talking movies and life. And I look forward to the next one.
Definitely. But I'm going to be putting this video online in the next 24 hours to try and get them up pretty quick. Obviously, so Grimfest can then go, hey, watch Paradise Cove, and more people can watch it. More people can be a little bit wary about what house they buy, and make sure they check all corners for it. But I will send you this link via email, and maybe it's through your Facebook page or something, so you can.
Man, appreciate it so much. But I'm grateful that you were interested and that you took the time not only to watch the film but to give us this kind of outreach. It's really cool. I mean, for little movies, every little bit matters, but this was a blast.
It's cool for me because it's like born in 1971, started going to the cinema on my own, probably around Star Wars, Superman the movie, Close Encounters time. And so if I could have gone back and told my younger self, by the way, in however many years, more years than I care to remember, you will be speaking to filmmakers. It's like that, get out of it. That would just blow my mind. So for me, this is like, wow. So it's definitely a highlight for myself.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Anyway, my pleasure. Anytime,
definitely.
man.
But I will let you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to go downstairs and watch another film on the projector. I don't know what yet, but
right on. Lucky you. And next time I make it, when I make it out to the UK, we'll have to pick a movie, and I'll bring my partner out, and we'll just watch.
Definitely. I look forward to it, Martin.
Thank you so much, man. You're great at this, by the way. You should know that. Yeah.
I do try. I always geek out afterwards. But yeah. But I can keep my composure whilst I'm talking.
I loved it.
All right. Well, you take care, and I will catch up with you soon.
All right, my man.
Okay.
Be good.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.